Hello, everyone, and welcome to Spiral Out Podcast. I am your host, Chris West. You know, every once in a while, the show really surprises me. Whether or not it's a fan who reaches out and tells me how much they like the podcast. Sometimes cool people who make cool things will send me stuff for free. Sometimes I'll end up in a situation or a place that I never thought I would be. And like today's guest, occasionally I talk to an artist that really makes an impact on me. Bryan Ewing is our guest today, and before, during, and after the show, he was very gracious. He was very cool. He is like the fans artist. He's the artist. He really takes the time to think about the fans during his work, and he is a huge advocate for other artists. Just has a plethora of knowledge. A great guy. I really enjoyed talking to him. I hope to talk to him again, and I hope to learn more from him. And he also came up with the contest. That was his idea. It's something really cool to do for the fans that listen to this podcast and people who like Bryan Ewing's work. So without further ado, here's the contest rules. The contest. This was Bryan Ewing's idea. We are going to give away 3 $50 credits to his web store, and one grand prize winner will win a Pusicfer foil signed by Bryan Ewing. You must live in the United States. During the course of this interview, there is a question and an answer. You are going to want to send that question and answer to Bryan at bryanewing.com with the subject of Spiral Out Contest. Include the question and answer and your mailing address. All those have to be in there to be able to win. And in about a week, Bryan and his assistant will print out some of the entries and pick 4 of you. And again, 3 of you will get a $50 credit to his web store, and 1 of you will win a signed Pusicfer foil. So that's pretty amazing. I can't thank Bryan Ewing enough. I can't thank him enough for the conversation and all of the advice after the show that he gave me. I, again, really respect this guy and had a great time talking to him. So enjoy the show, spiral out, join the Fiend Club, and join the contest. Spiral out. I'm looking at the levels right now. I'm Chris, by the way. Thank you for coming on.
To meet you, Chris. Yeah, man. Thanks for asking me. There's actually a thunderstorm here right now, so you might get some of that. So it'll be extra spooky.
To add to the ambience.
Yes, that's what I paid for.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Spiral Out Podcast. Our guest today is Bryan Ewing, right? That's how you say it?
Nope.
No.
Ewing, kind of like
Damn it.
Dallas or the basketball player. Yeah, I thought you were.
I was
listening to your previous interviews, and you were nailing everyone's name.
I'm so
Actually,
disappointed.
Yeah. What's his last name? I can't pronounce.
I'm not going to try to say it right now because I just broke my streak.
Yeah. So just think of Dallas or the basketball player, and you're good.
Yeah. Patrick Ewing.
Got it.
But just Bryan Ewing. I'll just cut out me messing it up. And continue the streak.
Whatever works.
Again, if you're listening to this podcast, it's, Tool, Pusicfer, APC related. You recently did the Pittsburgh poster, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I think so.
I have it right over here, flattening out. I just got it in the mail yesterday. I got the ayahuasca foil, which I have no idea.
Awesome.
I have no idea what ayahuasca foil means. But
it's a hallucinogenic that they reference in
yeah, I know the drug.
At least in Bullet Train to Iowa. Okay.
I know the drug, the DMT whatnot derivative.
Yeah.
But as for it applying to a foil, I was very curious about.
Just the pattern of the foil. There are select different foil patterns you can choose. And I thought that seemed kind of druggy, kind of trippy, just to make it more relatable to the band and their music. So I just gave it that title.
It got me. I was like, what? Ayahuasca foil? Sold.
I like to secretly think I'm clever, and a lot of times I'm not. So
I think that one you were pretty clever. And I don't think it's a secret. I think if you look at your art and go through, what I could find on history, you seem genuinely intelligent and clever. And I don't mean that
I
condescending.
got my moments.
Your first Pusicfer poster, how did that relationship start? You did the wrestling one a while back.
Yeah.
The last tour, like 6 years ago.
2015.
Yeah.
Trying to remember. I tried to remember last week, to be honest.
You're a busy man too.
I recall, I'm probably going to screw this up, but maybe it's not a bad thing. The band's management hit me up, or it was Zoltron. I cannot recall. And if it was Zoltron, I apologize for not remembering correctly. But they just said it was a Lucha Libre theme, and then I could just kind of have fun. So I chose the most well-known, the Blue Demon, and just kind of did the anatomical style that I was messing around with at the time, and just had fun with that.
I'm really interested in this. Say that word again. Atomical.
Anatomical.
Anatomical. Sorry, I'm very interested in this.
The vocabulary lesson today.
Yeah, anatomical style, because again, going through your gig posters from as far as I could go back, it's fairly recent for a style of yours that you've been doing. Maybe not as opposed to as much work as you've done. I've only seen it in the last, I don't know, however many years, but
I made notes. So the first time I did it was for the Melvins in 2012.
Okay.
And right after that was for Swans, and they're managed by the same people. 10 years ago, bands just didn't want to pay artists for artwork. My style prior to that, like the illustrative style, just was very time consuming. So I had to come up with something faster. It was something that I wanted to try. So I just started doing it. And I assumed it would be like, all right, if this fails, I could just go back to the old style. And I was surprised that it took off. So yeah, I've been using that for about 10 years. And now I just kind of go back and forth between the anatomical style and my regular illustration style.
The anatomical style, which is faster, do you make these digitally, or do you draw them first and kind of layer them, or?
It's a combination of both. So the anatomy that's underneath, that's all hand drawn. And then without giving too much away, I just find an iconic image that works for the band, and then I draw the anatomy underneath. And then if I have collage in the background, like the Pusicfer poster from 2015, I'll do that all digitally, just finding images, either photographing, scanning, or finding them online, and then just making them part of the collage. And I try to make the collage be to reference the band and their music. So there's a purpose to it instead of just being random shit. Can I swear on this?
Yeah, of course.
Okay. Sorry. When I get nervous, I swear. So you're going to hear a lot of it.
Don't fucking worry about it.
Okay.
So from, again, being on your website and looking, you seem to have a little bit more variance than I've seen most artists have. At least with like the Pusicfer poster, there was like, I don't know, 5 or 6 different variants, weren't there? Like there's different foils, and you had some test prints and some regular ones. And I'm just curious about how you may select doing different things with the same image is the real question.
You probably know more about what I do than I do, because I forget really quickly. For the 2015, oddly enough, the printer ran out of regular foil paper and had to use a different foil paper. So that's kind of why there were the variants. And also at the time, the band allowed for the artist to create their own colorway or variant. So I did. And the variant for that was like the bubblegum colors, the blue and the magenta. And it was popular with previous stuff I had done. So I just kind of ran with that. It was all done with permission. And the test prints were whatever the printer had that they had, screwed up, air quotes. They didn't really screw it up. It's more of a, something was off, and then they just used that to test the next screen or the next job or whatever. And they gave me a couple of those. It was only 7 years, but it feels like a lifetime. So
fair enough.
Hard to remember all that.
Then we'll move on. Yeah, we'll talk about the new one. In my opinion, one of the most iconic of this tour is Alien Pope. I don't know if you have a specific name for it.
I do now. I didn't. I'm not good with naming stuff. So yeah, I'll steal it from you.
Yeah. Just kind of the process with that of, I'm guessing it was somewhat similar to the first one. And they call you and they say, hey, we need X, Y, Z. Did they give you a lot of freedom?
A ton of freedom. So let's see. Basically what they said was their direction was Men in Black. That was going to be the stage set for 2022. And then aliens, UFOs, and conspiracy theory. And then I could kind of do what I wanted. If we were going to include the Men in Black characters, I had to include all of them, not just Maynard. I can't remember the character's name now. Dick Merkin, that's it. Like, whenever I do a poster, I'll do a ton of research on the band. And I found an interview with Maynard, and it said something along the lines of extraterrestrials are kind of a new religion. And so I just ripped on that. And I grew up strict Catholic. I had to look at, being in church all the time, you look at a lot of religious art, and that carried over to being an influence for me. The religious art, not the religion, to kind of like add that into the influence of the work that I'm doing, if that made any sense. And with what a pope wears or a saint will wear in like classic religious art, like the mitre, the hat, that's always decorated. And I thought it would be really cool to tell a story with that. I took the image of Guadalupe and switched it out with Billy D being Guadalupe, and then the three agents being the angels that kind of support Billy D. Then I threw in the ayahuasca leaves, and I think there was a state flower for Pennsylvania. Exciting stuff.
It really is, in my opinion, especially watching, I guess, how you did the drop too, where, the three posters came out, and then also the individual sketches for each little piece, like the Guadalupe, Billy D, the, Lucha Libre little wrestler guys that, went on the lapel. Sorry, I'm looking at it. The donkey from Donkey Punch.
Yes. Yeah.
For me, it was really cool because it kind of, like, I got to see the image, and then I guess I kind of understood the process more of maybe how you created it by seeing the little sketches. Because I guess in the back of my brain, I was like, he must have just drawn all of this at once. And you're like, well, obviously not.
Yeah, my brain doesn't work that great. So yeah, with that, so like the wrestler is the same one from the first poster I did. So I was kind of bringing that back. And I like being able to hide things in the work that I'm doing. I find it fascinating because a successful poster, whoever does it, you should be able to read it within like 5 seconds. You should be able to read the band name and kind of pick out the art and just, it should register with you. But I want people to look at it for more than 5 seconds. So I like to hide a bunch of stuff in there, and the band, the lyrics, and their videos and stage presence is very layered. So I kind of wanted to use that way of thinking into the piece that I was doing for them, drawing up the saint or the pope or whatever you want to call it, alien pope.
Sorry.
It gave me an opportunity to hide all that stuff in there in plain sight. So I'm trying to think. Yes, there's the donkey from the videos, and then
there's the wrestler.
What else is in there?
Oh, look. So there's the donkey on the stage left side. Above that is I think one of the wrestlers, the Maynard looking wrestler. And then
yeah, that's him from his stage shows.
The other side is the previous poster wrestler, and then below that is the lady in the cowboy hat from Conditions of My Pearl. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So again, if you know the band, all of those things are recognizable images.
Yeah, it's kind of created for people who are fans of the band, to get more than 5 seconds of viewing out of it. I like I said, I just want to make stuff that people will spend some time and really look at it.
Did you sketch it out originally digitally or on paper? Oh, obviously on paper. You have the original. You sold the original sketches.
Yeah, I'm not that smart enough to draw digitally yet. I figure when my eyesight goes, I'll start working digitally more often. But right now, I enjoy drawing and I enjoy drawing on paper. So it doesn't matter how you do it. That's just how I do it. And at the end of the day, you can't sell a file, but you can sell a drawing. So there's that as well.
Sure.
The added bonus.
I recently talked to another poster artist who did some things digitally, did his poster digitally, but had previously sold some sketches and was, I think, kind of kicking himself that he didn't sketch his Pusicfer poster out on paper first.
It's the old saying is, use all of the buffalo, use it all.
Tatanka.
Yes. Was that Dances with Wolves?
Yeah, sorry, I don't mean to throw that out there.
I haven't seen that movie probably since it came out. Not to complain, but artists really don't get paid a lot to do these posters. Yeah. If you're smart, you'll figure out ways to monetize what you do. Poster artists don't do this completely for fun. They also have to pay their rent. This is a good way to kind of help pay that rent, because most artists are probably making less than minimum wage. They probably get, maybe $1 or $2 an hour for all the hours they put into the work that they do. The bands really can't afford, the way the music industry is set up kind of sucks, and we all know it. We all accept it, so we can't complain too much. So bands really aren't going to pay you thousands of dollars to do a poster. You got to figure out ways to get paid. The other good thing is that if you're smart, the artist will retain all the rights to the artwork. 10 years from now, or even 10 days from now, if the band is like, hey, we want to make a t-shirt, you're like, cool, you're going to have to pay me a licensing fee. And that's fair, because you're better off getting paid in print than you are just getting an art fee, because it's a little more work to sell prints, but you will actually make enough to pay your rent that way.
Agreed. And especially, you obviously work with a ton of bands, but in my travels in doing this, it seems like anything revolving around Tool, Perfect Circle, Pusicfer, even Primus, and just sells out like instantly.
I just assume it's middle-aged white guys, I don't know. It's like
that's me.
What used to be kind of same here, man. I even have a beard to prove it.
I can't grow a beard. This is like 3 months.
Someday. Because these bands have lasted so long, their audience it's kind of like they've matured, and so has their audience. And I think that their audience wants more than a t-shirt or a fucking pint glass or a sticker. They want, like, posters are meant to advertise a show to get people into the door, but also they serve as a keepsake, a reminder of that night that they had seeing that band. And posters have been having a renaissance for the past 10 years. So that's been great. And I think people see the value in that. And some people see more value and they think they're going to buy it, flip it on eBay and make thousands of dollars. And good luck. I don't know.
How I kind of see it being a collector myself. And again, I can't draw a stick figure. It extends the universe. You know what I'm saying? Like, I get to go to this show or multiple shows, pick up a poster. But now, at least with the art community or, these different pages and whatnot, I can join a Facebook group or an Instagram thing and talk to other people that have similar stuff. And it's no longer just, I go to one show, get one poster. It's now I'm part of this huge group. And there's many artists and there's many different bands and many cool images that I can now participate in.
Yeah.
That's at least what I get from it.
Well, my unprofessional theory about all of it is, you remember, when you were a kid in high school, and you wore your favorite band T-shirt and you didn't really know anybody. Someone's like, "I love Metallica too. Let's be friends."
Yep.
And that's kind of what music is to me. It opens a door to meet other like-minded people that have the same interests as you. Then there's everything that kind of gets added to it, like the artwork and the videos and the tours and stuff like that. And maybe this is something new where people are trying to find more community in different things instead of just politics, religion, and location. There's more to it. And with social media, there's nothing stopping anyone from befriending someone in another country, and it's pretty cool. It's really fun to see people kind of just put their bullshit aside and get along and, just talk about the things that they love, not the things that stress them out or that they hate. It's with all this technology, it's really fucking lonely to be a person.
Yep.
So it's a great way to kind of deal with that loneliness,
No, I think that's 100% correct. And again, not that, something like the poster art or rock poster art community doesn't have its issues or whatever. You get enough people together, you're going to have some conflict. But for the most part, people look out for each other.
Where are you in Nevada?
Yeah, I'm in Las Vegas.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, it's hot as fuck here.
At least you're at the epicenter of all the alien conspiracies and stuff like that. It's pretty cool.
It is.
I don't know how you deal with the weather, man. It's pretty dry and pretty hot there.
Yeah, we just don't go outside until 7 o'clock.
Makes sense.
And you try to do everything you want to do outside, chore wise, if you have any, before about 8 o'clock.
Wow.
Anything after 8 o'clock, it's obviously just life for me, but I'll have people visit and they'll be like, it's like you live in a wasteland. Like nobody's out during the day. Why would you do this to yourself? And it's like, it's just where I live.
I just assume you guys have tunnels that connect you to everything.
We should.
Like the casinos. Yeah.
We should. We just use Uber.
There you go. Lots of AC and Uber.
It's like building car, another building with AC, car, maybe a large body of water sometime. Nah, a lot of people outside right now. Back to the poster. I'm curious. For some reason, yours seems different to me. Your most recent Pusicfer poster. I don't know why. I think it's the composition. Just this big alien right in the middle. You know what I'm saying? How aware were you before you sat down and drew that you were going to do this big of an alien? Like, how did you build your composition?
Never really thought about that, and no one's ever asked. A good question. I had a couple of different ideas. I just knew I wanted to draw an alien, and I kind of sucked at drawing the gray aliens. I did one for the Foo Fighters, and it wasn't my best piece, and I was kind of bummed out about that. So I felt like I had to do a better alien. And one of the guys that does the best aliens in rock posters is an artist named Monk One.
Yeah, I know him. I've heard of him.
Yeah. Super nice guy, also an amazing artist. And I was like, dude, he does such great aliens. He does a lot of great stuff, but I wanted to do a better job than what I had done previously. And again, the objective of doing a poster is to get someone's attention right away and have it be instantly readable. So just drawing one figure is easier and easier to process than having a bunch of figures or a full body or something like that. And I think one of my bad habits is I always draw people from the waist up in most of my stuff. So yeah, that was kind of the thing. And then I just saw that the miter, the hat, and the sash and everything were opportunities for me to squeeze more artwork in there. I think that answers the question. I don't know.
Yeah. I think we were talking about clever earlier is the mushroom spaceships.
I'm not that original. I took it from their video. I think it was Bullet Train to Iowa. Well, the client, the merch company, that's pretty much nowadays you don't really deal with bands and their management. You deal with their merch company who deals with the band and their management. So this guy, Paul Varela at, I think it's called the Merch Collective, he hit me up and he gave me the lowdown of aliens, Men in Black, UFOs, conspiracy theories. And then he gave me links to their videos and just said, watch these 4 videos and get your ideas from that. So that's what I did. And in the video, there are these, I forgot what type of mushrooms they are. They're also hallucinogenic. I guess I don't do enough drugs to remember what drugs are called. So,
Me either.
Yeah, the mushroom spaceships are in the video, and it was a good solution to filling up the space around the alien.
One of the things I really like, and I've kind of been trying to pay attention to with art pieces, so you have this like almost star-like thing coming out from behind his head, and I'm trying to pay attention to like background shapes, and I'm just curious on why you put that in there, I guess, and how that helps, because it obviously does. It feels in space and whatnot, but
kind of is. I'm guilty of using it before. It's a great way to layer an image. So you see the alien, and you see what I would call like the halo, and behind that you see the background of the space. So it creates, and then you can also call the text a layer. So you have all these layers on a flat piece of paper, and it gives it more dimension. Also, I'm just stealing it from religious art. If you look at religious art, there's a lot of graphic design that goes into some of it, and it's really fascinating. So I just kind of copied from there. So it all kind of made sense, I guess. Yeah, I never thought I'd have to explain it to anybody. So it's interesting that you asked. No, these are great questions.
I'm curious on how your fan reception has been, because I hear both sides where like fans are just ecstatic, and then how they can also be really difficult to deal with sometimes. And again, as busy as you seem to be, I'm just curious on the fan reception for this one specifically, because I've seen nothing but good things.
I thought the Emic print that you have behind you was really amazing. Burrito Breath did a really good one. Monk One did a great one. Ryan Besh, Your Cinema, did a really amazing one. There's a lot of just great art for that tour, so I'm happy that people like it. But I think the most popular response from everyone was, "Where's my order?" So after that, I learned early, and I learned early on in my career, and what other people have to say about me is none of my business.
I love it.
You can, I think, I can't remember who said it, but it's, again, I'm not original. I'm just stealing from here and there. I try to, you can get a bunch of really great responses, but it only takes one bad response to ruin your day. It's better for me to just keep my head down and just get the work done and not worry if I'm popular that day or anything like that. That's not what gets me out of bed. So I'm happy that people enjoy it. I worked really hard, and I drew it for their fans more than I did for the band, because the band's already on board with it. Now I just really want their audience to enjoy it.
And I think that kind of leads me into my next question, where I watched a video of you. You were talking about, maybe the differences between digital art and actually drawing, and you talk about the life and soul of an art piece. Again,
I don't remember, but okay.
Fair enough.
I was probably, high off the smell of my own farts that day, and was just like, I'm going to tell everybody how it is, or something. I don't know.
Well, I think it has some validity to it when you're talking about how you doing this piece for the fans. And I think it shows, because somebody like me who collects, again, I don't have every poster from this tour. There were certain ones that I gravitated towards, and it seems like a lot of people gravitated towards this one. And I think maybe subconsciously or consciously people can tell that. They're like, oh, there is some life. This is done for us, not for the band, because there are other pieces that you can barely tell are Pusicfer posters.
Yeah.
I'm not knocking any of those. I probably still own them. But this one specifically, you're like, this guy gets it. This one's dope.
Oh, then I succeeded. Whenever I'm asked to describe my job, I just give a sarcastic answer of my job is to make the band look cool. And again, I'm not like this martyr or whatever,
Sure.
or someone who. What I think about their audience more than I think about the band, because the audience knows more about the band than the band does. That's always been my experience. That is usually my approach. Also, at the same time, there are things that I want to draw, and I use these opportunities to do that. I wanted to draw a better Alien. I think it's a lot better than the Foo Fighters Alien I did. That was for me, and also I got to put it through the Pusicfer filter and make it a poster for them.
Thank you for that answer. That was a great answer. You've been doing this for many years now. I read somewhere that you used to work in porn.
Yes, I did.
And this is, I usually do the Pusicfer stuff or, whatever band, and then kind of get some history. What interested you in doing stuff like this to begin with?
Porn or posters?
Well, both, actually. You had to.
Okay.
And then, when did you start?
I mean, they go hand in hand.
Explain.
Sorry, I'm just fucking with you. I'm just messing with you.
You think you were doing graphic design, right, or something of that nature? Some type of page design in porn.
I was trying to. So in 1999, I moved to LA for a relationship. I worked at a Kinko's and I hated my job in LA. And so I was looking through the classifieds and I saw, Men's Magazine looking for art director. I was like, well, I could draw, so I'll apply. And when they said Men's Magazine, I thought they meant like GQ or Details or something. Like
or Maxim.
Men's Fitness. I don't know. I didn't really have a lot of confidence in drawing, but I thought I could be a good art director. I get to work with artists that I like and hopefully, make a cool project. So I sent them a sarcastic cover letter. I didn't know what Larry Flint Publishing meant. And so I sent them the other thing is like, I am fresh off the boat from the Midwest when I moved to LA and I'm just very naive. So, and I'm young. So I sent them my resume and a cover letter, and the cover letter was really sarcastic, talking about how I dropped out of art school, and if this doesn't work out, I'll just apply to be a truck driver. And the woman that hired me called me up. This is people really didn't use email 20 years ago. She called me up and just said, I thought you were really funny. Would you like to come in for an interview? And so I did, and we spent 20 minutes talking about the job, and we spent 2 hours talking about music. And it was this woman named Sharon Ludke. She just saw potential in me, and I was just really surprised. So basically, long story long, I got the job as an art director, and the next day I got fired.
Why is that?
Because Larry Flint's niece or daughter or somebody had a fiance that needed a job.
Oh.
So it's kind of like, you remember Reservoir Dogs where they're just like, yeah, you'll get a job at the dock. You don't have to do anything.
Yeah.
Collect your check. And so it was kind of like that. It was, it was an honorary title for this guy. He didn't do anything. And so I lost the job, and Sharon called me back. She's like, I am so sorry. You're fired. I was just like, oh, okay, whatever. I didn't even start, So she's like, I really want you to work here. So she found me another job within the company where I dealt with scheduling, which meant I worked on all the magazines, and I made sure that they got to the printers on time, they got to the distributors on time, and that the art directors turned everything in on time, which is really the opposite of the type of person I am. So it's funny that they gave me that job. And I was trying to work my way into getting an art director job, but she had quit. And the person that took over for her just hated my guts. So
it happens.
Every time I applied within the company to do some kind of creative job, she would just stop it. She would just put the kibosh on it. So after like a couple of years, I just quit. And I made sure that was my last real job ever. no matter how bad it got, I would still try to be an artist and never have to go back to a day job, because I wouldn't want to say, oh yeah, I got a job at Office Max after working at Hustler magazine. So yeah, I forgot to tell you some interesting Hustler stories. One of the people I worked with was Mackie Osborne, which was Buzz Osborne from the Melvins.
Okay.
It was his wife. And she was one of the first people I befriended. We would talk every day, and I would show her everything I was working on. And she would just, do you want to do a poster for the Melvins? Like, yeah, sure. I had just done one for Hank 3. And she's like, oh, we're good friends with him. Why don't you do a poster for my husband's band? Also, one time Tool came into the offices. And so I briefly got to meet Adam Jones. He was the only person I cared about.
Yeah.
Because he's an artist, and that's what I gravitate towards. And I knew that he was doing special effects and stop motion, and he did some illustration. And I briefly got to be like, hey, they were there to see Mackie and the woman that hired me, Sharon. I'm not sure why, but they were in the offices, and so I just got to pop my head and be like, hey, what's up?
What year was this?
2001.
Oh wow, that's awesome. I've met everybody in Tool very briefly, except for Adam Jones. I haven't yet to meet Adam Jones.
He was at Comic-Con.
I
couldn't get away from my booth, but my buddy, who's a filmmaker, he was at my booth promoting his movie Drunk Bus. So here I am promoting his movie on your podcast. He was there, and he is a huge Tool fan, so he just dropped everything and ran, and got a chance to talk to him, which was pretty cool. I was jealous, but I couldn't get away from my booth.
It happens.
Not sure where I was going with that, but
I guess
that was my.
Yeah, I mean, it's a super interesting story. I guess where does it lead into poster? When did you do? What was your first big band?
I don't know. I moved from Minneapolis to LA, and that's where I got the job at Hustler. And prior to that, I was just doing flyers for the local venue, First Avenue in Minneapolis. And so whatever bands came through, I'd just be like, can I do a flyer? And they would just give me free drinks and tickets to the show. When I moved to LA, I tried to keep that business model going, but try to get paid. So I reached out to the Troubadour and started doing stuff with them. As far as first big band, I really don't remember. It's been 20 years.
Yeah.
So,
no worries.
Yeah. I don't know. I hate to do this. If you go to my website, you can see some of the early work.
That's not a bad thing at all. People listening should go to BryanEwing.com and his store. And I guess my next question, how do you keep it interesting after 20 years? How do you keep pushing yourself or experimenting?
That's a tough question to answer. So basically, I just try to get out of my own way, gravitate towards what's easiest, which isn't always the best, the path of least resistance. I make sure that my influences go beyond rock posters. And there have been times in my career where I just drew whatever I wanted and threw a band name on it. But now I try to really pay attention and do my research. So the most diehard fan of that band will find something they like in it. And that gives me permission or license to draw stuff that I don't normally do, or to find ways to shoehorn the stuff that I really like drawing and make it relevant to the band. I started learning how to use Photoshop in the past couple of years. My friend Steve Chanks, he's been helping me learn Photoshop. And so every week we just show each other what we're working on, and he'll point out to me in a very constructive way, what needs work. And it really helps me, like I said, get out of my own way. Because if no one was pointing out what doesn't work, I would be too lazy or selfish or childish to make those changes that would make the piece a better piece. I think that's one of the ways. And just nowadays, when I work on a piece, I take notes. I don't know why I love taking notes now. And even if I'm not working for the band, if an idea comes to mind, I'll keep notes open. And so I kind of have an open door with Metallica, and they just say, if you have any ideas, let us know. Otherwise, we'll hire you when we have an idea. So I just keep a list of notes of like, oh, this would be a cool image. That would be a cool image. And if I can find time, I'll present it to them. And I just look at a lot of art. I try to let myself be influenced, and I find the most joy in art that is totally opposite of mine, because I know how my art is made, but I don't know how someone else's art is made, especially with a different style. And I find that fascinating. If you ever hang out with musicians, which is really annoying, they will shit all over songs or bands that you like because they're looking at it from a technical aspect, whereas I'm looking at a song, listening to a song just from a
emotional,
a fan, someone who doesn't know anything about music, just enjoys what they're hearing. So I try to look at art that way too. Otherwise, I'll ruin the pleasure of looking at art for myself. It's so stupid.
No, it's not. It's not at all. Cause, it's not stupid at all because I went to film school and I make short films and stuff from time to time. And there was definitely a time in film school where you'd be hanging out with your film buddies and they couldn't watch, I don't know, for example, a Marvel movie. You know what I'm saying? and I get it. You know, it's bubble gum. You know, it's ice cream. It's flashy lights, but I can still, I had to consciously say like, I want to enjoy the theater. You know what I'm saying? Like, they have their purpose. Yeah. I want to enjoy this. I don't have to watch, Citizen Kane 100 times and to be a film lover. I can watch whatever I want and enjoy whatever I want.
Yeah, exactly. How I try to keep being an artist interesting for me.
Is there an artist specific that is not like your style that you pay attention to or enjoy?
I like a lot of comic book art. I grew up on comics, and as a kid, part of my desire to be an artist was I worked at a comic book store. So I went to a fine arts high school. So if you ever seen the TV show or the movie Fiend, it was kind of like that, but lower rent version of that, a little more ghetto. So during the day, I had like this fine art education. In the evenings at the comic book store, I would get this pop art education, and a lot of that just kind of combined. So it's like a lot of the art that I like is indicative of my generation and what was popular and how I grew up. So I listened to a lot of heavy metal, punk rock, hip hop, and I love skateboarding, and all that was like a recipe for disaster of what I would like, what kind of artist I wanted to be and what kind of art I liked. So yeah, this is a really long answer to your short question.
It's not. I mean, we're here for an hour. So I mean, like this is the bread and butter that people like. They like the.
You can just speed up the audio,
right? No, I think you're way more articulate, and I think people. This is what they like to hear. They want to know the nitty gritty. It's interesting. At least it's interesting to me. You're saying you had your art during the day, and then you had your pop art at night at the comic book store, and how that plus skating kind of just created, what you do, and not only that, I don't think you're the only one that has a similar origin story of just kind of I don't want to say being on the outskirts, but just having these like skating and rock and hip hop, DJing and comic books mixed with graffiti and pop art, and it just kind of creates like these super awesome poster artists that are, I think just I'm hoping that are just creating like this whole new way of enjoying a band, or at least expanding it, because it's always been around. There's always been gig posters, but now it's just a whole new level. Like you said, you're making them for the fans now with hidden images. And
I do look at poster artists. Like I mentioned a few, especially ones that just recently did. We're part of the Pusicfer tour. And then I grew up on like Pushead. That was a big deal for me. I read Thrasher magazine when I was a kid, and I loved I would pretty much listen to any band that Pushead did the artwork for. And then there were poster artists like Coop and Frank Kozik. Jermaine Rogers, he was one of the first artists to help me kind of understand how the business of gig posters works. And I'll never forget that. And Emic, I was a fan before I ever met the guy, and super awesome artist and really nice guy. And what else? Jim Phillips, the Santa Cruz Screaming guy. Like, that was a big deal for me growing up.
I just interviewed,
and it's really amazing.
Jimbo.
Oh wow, big fan of his work too.
Yeah.
That's got to be an interesting torch to carry from your father.
I couldn't even imagine.
He's his own artist, which is great. He has this legacy, but he's also unique. And it's almost like the Phillips brand that they're carrying on, which is fascinating. You don't see too many family of artists who can do that. I grew up on a lot of comics, rock, like skateboard art and album art and t-shirt art and stuff like that. And it really influenced who I wanted to be. I just didn't know I could actually do it. So I guess I'm doing it.
What are those, what were those original bands that you were into? Like, what were your, middle school, high school, you know what I'm saying?
I'm pretty old. So, I grew up with grunge, stuff like that. Prior to that was thrash. Thrash was like a big deal. Everybody has like that band, that artist, that whatever that they're kind of embarrassed about, but it was their gateway into the taste that they have now, So, yeah, I listened to Poison and Cinderella and Motley Crue and shit like that, but that was my gateway into Slayer, Iron Maiden, Metallica, Anthrax, I never get to talk music with people, so it's hard to like dig up all this stuff that I grew up with. And one of the biggest bands that really had an effect on me were the Misfits. I didn't even know at the time that I would still be so influenced by them. But back in the day when I was a kid, one of the first albums I bought was the whatever reissue of Walk Among Us from the 80s, because I'm that old. And so, yeah, listening to bands like that. And my brother and sister, I have an older brother and sister, and they had different musical tastes. My brother loved like Frank Zappa and all the hippie shit. I really couldn't get into that. I can now see the benefit of it, but back in the day, I wanted to listen to what my generation was listening to, and it was none of that fucking classic rock. And the irony is now what I grew up listening to is now classic rock. My sister listened to a lot of like house music and hip hop, so that was an influence as well. So like in the 80s, punk rock and hip hop were still in their infancy. They started in 77 around the same time and pretty much in the same city, which is fascinating. But by the time it hit, I grew up in the Midwest, so by the time it hit us, it was still brand new. Same thing with graffiti. That was that was from my generation, and it was so fascinating and so dangerous, because everything was so illegal, and it made you want to see more of it and to try it. But for me, I never played music, so I just love the art. And so the arts, like the album art, the t-shirt art, all that stuff, skate decks, that really influenced who I wanted to be.
Speaking of Misfits, I got two questions. Glenn Danzig or Michael Graves?
I'm not going to answer that question.
I love
You already know. Good for you, man. The band kind of ended when Danzig left. That's just my opinion.
You know what?
They should have just changed their name.
I don't disagree. And the sad part is I really, really like what Michael Graves did. It's just not the Misfits.
No. So,
and I love those.
Been smart to call it something else.
But I had to ask. And then going into your your logo, it's obviously a Misfits reference, right?
Oh yeah.
The one behind you. Did you have to get any creative licensing for that, or you just kind of manipulated to? Because I know their fan club is called the Fiend Club too, right?
Yeah, but they took it from Vampira.
Gotcha.
Before Elvira, there was the original like horror movie host Her name was Vampira. She was around in the 70s. Misfits wrote a song about her. And Glenn Danzig was very smart to take all his influences, run them through his own filter, and create the visual iconography of the Misfits. So, like, the skull is from The Crimson Ghost, which
Right.
was an old serial, which is kind of like they would show that before a movie. You would see this like 10, 20-minute, episode, like a TV show, before you saw the main feature, and that's The Crimson Ghost. So he took it from that, and then the Fiend Club is from the Vampire Fiend Club, unless I'm wrong. And so I'm just carrying on the tradition. No one really owns, and so Shepard Fairey had done it, and I was like, oh shit, Shepard can do that. I'm going to try it. And I had a show in 2015, and I was just insanely crazy about the Misfits at the time, and I made it like a Misfits theme show. And I was like, well, I need something cool for it. So that's when I created the Fiend Club thing. And I don't take it serious. It's a parody of a parody of a parody of a parody, kind of thing. Like no one owns it. I'm wearing my musical taste on my sleeve.
Sure.
This is who I am. This is what I like.
Get to some of the last questions I have. Doing a new Pusicfer poster. How's that going?
Yeah. I haven't even started it yet. It's for their October show. So it's at the end of October. So I have some time. I try to just send them. I gave them 2 sketches for the last one. I was like, hey guys, can I just reuse this idea? And they're like, no. So I have to come up with a new one. In my head, it's going to include Billy D and the government agents and the aliens. I have an idea in my head. I just need to write it down and get it out, and then sketch it up and, just kind of present it to the band. And hopefully they like it. I don't know. I wish I had more to say. I do, but I can't. So that's the best thing I can say. Because if I tell people what the idea is, it's probably going to be better in their heads than it will be on paper.
Fair enough.
I don't want to set myself up.
Fair enough. I am also curious about, because this will probably come out after, you did your last blog post, where you're like, hey, update on shipping, yada, 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 which I really appreciate, by the way. Again, being a part of your mailing list now and whatnot, and have bought some items from you. A little update from now and then is great. Thanks. Having some type of heads up. Again, I have nothing against, and I understand why he does this, but like, let's say Amick, I get no updates and his shit is gone immediately, in seconds. There's no, hey, keep an eye out. And I understand why that happens, but all I'm saying is thanks.
It's the hardest thing is to be honest with people, because you worry that they're going to judge you, or that whatever idea they have of you is going to be ruined. I don't know what people think of me, and it's probably good. Took a few people to email me going, hey, it's been a month. What the hell, dude? It's like, fuck, I've been so slammed that I forgot to update people. So that was my nudge to update people. I got some angry emails, and I don't process those too well. And so I just was like, all right, cooler heads prevail. I'll just make this video and let people know. And people are very visual, especially when it comes to proof that their order was shipped. And also with social media, you have to make certain types of, content. And so I'm just killing several birds with one stone by doing that. The hardest part about being an artist is you have to be a business, and nobody wants to do that because it's, hard enough to get the job, and you have to do the job, but then you have to promote it, and then you have to sell it, and you have to ship it too. And, no one tells you about that. So some days you have the energy to get it all done. Some days you don't, or you just get distracted with other work. Comic-Con, that came up out of the blue. I had to drop everything I was doing to be prepared for that. And everybody in the end was very accepting, and they understood. And I tried to get everything out as soon as I could. So I tried to get everything out as soon as I could. And, made sure to not release anything else until I took care of the people that have already, bought these prints. So I hope everybody doesn't hate my guts.
Speaking of the Comic-Con, that's kind of interesting. Did you ever done that before?
Yes. I did it for about 17 years.
Oh, okay.
And then I got burnt out. You do anything long enough, you have stories. So I have a billion stories.
You say you have a bunch of interesting stories. What's the first one that comes to your mind?
I don't know. You get to meet a lot of interesting people. There's so many. Basically, having a booth at Comic-Con is like standing in front of your portfolio. You just stand there, and everybody just comes to you, and it creates these dialogues with strangers, that you'd never get to have otherwise. And a lot of people that go to Comic-Con work in the film industry, TV, music, comics, obviously, and, art industries. And so you get to meet some really fascinating, interesting, and sometimes weird people, God, I'm trying to remember. I'm more excited about meeting other artists, to be honest. Like Tom DeLonge from Blink-182 came to my booth one year, and he thought he was incognito, and I recognized him right away because I had done stuff for his band. He's like, "So you do rock posters?" And I'm like, "Yeah." Come on, man, where are we going with this? Like, "Oh, that's really fascinating." It's like, okay. I was like, "Hey, has anybody recognized you today?" And he just gave me this like, "Oh shit, look, like, are you gonna freak out at me?" I was like, "Oh no, we have similar friends. I know fucking this guy and that guy, and your clothing company used to sponsor me." So, he's like, "Oh, okay, cool." And you just get to have like a normal conversation. I've met actors, musicians, obviously. I got to do a signing with Weezer one time at Comic-Con.
Wow.
That was pretty crazy. Got into a small argument with Rivers.
That doesn't surprise me.
Well, I'm very, I guess because just the way I grew up, I don't like people talking down to me. And so he didn't really talk down to me. He's a really nice guy. I'm just going to put it that way. And right before we did the signing, he had just seen the posters I did for his band. And I did the anatomical style. So there's this photo, and I used the photos that their management gave me. He's like, "Why am I not wearing glasses in this poster? That's my signature." And I told him, "Because that's what your management sent me." And he's like, "But I wear glasses." I was like, "Dude, this is what they sent me. This is all I can work with." Because working with musicians, they don't always own the rights to their photos of themselves, which is really strange. I did a project with Kirk Hammett, and I had found photos that I thought were good, and his management's like, "Yeah, we can't use these. We don't own the rights to them, but you can use these photos." So I had to work with that. Same thing with Charlie Benante from Anthrax. I did an album cover for him, and I had to take a bunch of photos and put them all together to make a new photo. So anyway, with Rivers, he just didn't understand that his management only gave me one photo of him. And Brian Bell, the guitarist, was like, "Dude, chill out. You did a good job." And so I ended up just talking to Brian and Scott, the bass player, the whole time. The drummer didn't show up. He had a death in the family, so they told everybody I was the new drummer. So everybody that was waiting in line, they're like, "Oh yeah, this is Brian. He's our new drummer." And so they would hand me an album, and I didn't know what to say, so I'm just like, "Oh, I didn't plan this album, so I can't sign it, but I can sign this poster for you." And then, and it was a good experience. And then we got to see the band play later, and that was a lot of fun. And a month later, they played in Ohio where I live. And so I took my friend, who's a filmmaker, this guy, Tony Mormon. I took him because he's a huge Weezer fan, and we went backstage afterwards, and Rivers was really nice to me then. So it was he's not a bad guy. I'm just trying to say that.
That would have been hilarious though if he was still pissed. He was like, "You again with the no glasses?"
Yeah.
Come on.
Yeah. Well, we'd have probably had some words. I don't have a big ego. It's just more of a, you cross the line, you can't say that. One time, a producer came to my table and saw the Universal Monsters stuff I had done. and bought it all. And I'm like, interesting. You just dropped like $1,000. What do you do? He's like, oh, I work in film. I'm like, yeah, what do you do? He's like, oh, I work for Universal Studios, who owns the rights to Frankenstein, Bride of Frankenstein, all that. And we're going to reboot the franchise. Like,
with Tom Cruise.
Are you a lawyer? He's like, yeah. Well, funny enough, that guy was the one who wrote The Mummy and directed it. And now I can't remember his name. Holy shit. Produced Star Trek and all that stuff. And he was one of the creators of Hercules.
With Kevin Sorbo?
Yes. Yeah, that gem of a TV show.
I love that show when I was a kid.
Highlighted. Yeah, I think that was like the pinnacle of that guy's career. He's probably starring in films with Kirk Cameron now.
Like religious films?
So this producer who's rebooting the Universal Monster movies, his name's Alex Kurtzman, was at my booth and bought all this stuff. And I was like, oh shit, are you a lawyer? He's like, no, we love your work. We just want some to hang up in our offices. And I was like, all right, cool. And he's like, do you live in LA? I was like, nah, sorry. I think at the time I was living in New York, but he wanted me to come to his offices and paint murals in his office. And I was like, sure, man, you sound like you have a lot of money. So by chance, I was dating someone who lived in LA and I was visiting her, and I sent him an email like, oh, I'm going to be in LA if you want to meet up. He's like, yeah, sure. Come to the Universal Studios. Like, okay, the theme park? Sure. Why not? Like, I didn't know anything about it. So I get there and I'm on the back lot, and you're supposed to take like a golf cart to wherever you have to be. And I just started walking. So I ended up walking through all these different parts of Universal Studios, like, like the fake downtown you would see in some music videos and shit. Like, I accidentally walked through that, and there were like tours going by and taking photos of me thinking I was like an actor or some shit. So after like 45 minutes and like a couple of miles in 80-degree weather, I finally find their offices, and I have a meeting with Alex Kurtzman. And I didn't know who the guy was until after I left the meeting, which is probably a good thing, because some of the stuff that he wanted me to do, it's Hollywood. So he's got like these yes men around him. And, he's like, oh, I have this idea, and, I want to do this. I'm like, yeah, I don't think that'll work. But his yes men were like, oh, that's a great idea. And I'm like, shut up. Like, I have to do the work. You don't. But long story long, I ended up kind of passing on doing the murals because they didn't have much of a budget. So, but we always stayed in touch. He did the Silence of the Lambs TV series, Clarice, and I had hit him up about doing something for that. There was no traction with that. Then he asked me to do something for the Star Trek series that he was working on. And I wasn't really into Star Trek, so I kind of passed on that.
That was an interesting story. I catch myself just from doing this podcast in odd situations where I'm like, what the hell did I get here?
It's making no sense.
No, like, how did I end up in this place, like this random studio or this random, whatever? I'm all of a sudden in Europe. Like,
oh, really? So the podcast gets you to, allows you to travel?
I wouldn't say it allows it to, but it gives me a reason to. You know what I'm saying? Before the Pusicfer tour, I went and saw Tool 3 times in Europe.
Wow.
And again,
I heard you mention that in the some of the other interviews you did.
Yeah, I still haven't talked about it on the podcast about what actually happened over there. But maybe one day, because I got interrogated.
It's a good segue into that. Oh, really? I think you did mention that with the Dima. I can't pronounce his last name.
Maybe I'll tell you after the interview what happened.
Okay.
It's a pretty interesting story. And one day I'll tell it on the podcast when I won't get in trouble for telling it. You said on your newsletter that you randomly got new Pusicfer prints.
Yes.
And I'm guessing this will come out after you release those, but just curious what they are, if you're allowed to talk about those. Or
yeah. So the management said, it's funny, like, what you can get away with if you just ask.
Believe me, I know.
So the management, here you are doing interviews with everyone. I'm impressed. I think it's cool that you took the time to come up with something that other people would be interested in, and it's opening all these doors for you. Like, a lot of people talk about doing that, but you're actually doing it. And really think that's great.
Thank you. And it's just me.
I'm already on yeah, it's not like I need to butter you up. I'm already on your podcast, but I think it's awesome. And I hope to see and hear you do more with this because, there's probably a lot more you can do. Who knows? It all depends on what your goals are. So they asked, we can either just pay you cash or we can give you prints. And I asked, can I do my own foil variant? They're like, yeah, sure. So I got the same amount of prints as every other artist. I just switched it up from the dot foil to, the Ripley ayahuasca version. And that was the ayahuasca version was my exclusive that you couldn't get from the band or at the show. The printer, Isaac at Lady Lazarus, amazing printer. I'm happy to drop his name all the time. They sent me a mirror foil version too, and I didn't know I was getting that. So I didn't make it available because I didn't get my prints till after the show. And insane Tool fans are, they're voracious people and they're very focused and they are very passionate. So like the day of, they're like, sell me the goddamn poster, like sell it tomorrow. So I didn't know that I was getting the mirror foil version prints. So I got those so I can make those available probably in the next week. I have so many deadlines. I don't have time to sell things. Yeah. So I'm trying to make time for that. Like I have a Death Cab for Cutie poster I got to finish when we get off the podcast. So they sent me that and I reached out to some of the other artists. I was like, did you guys get extras? They're like, yeah. Like, oh shit. Because that never really happened, So that was really a nice surprise and very nice of the band and the printer to give me that because I wasn't expecting that.
How many did they send you?
Yeah, a lot.
Well, I mean, I think too, when it comes to this, one reason I did this is I didn't see that there was a lot of people doing it.
Yeah.
There's so many artists out there.
Yeah. Usually what people do is they'll go with the top 5 artists of whatever genre, whatever magazine, podcast, whatever. We'll just keep interviewing the same people. After a while, it gets kind of stale. So no one ever hits me up. So I appreciate, anybody asking me to do an interview.
We need to come up with a good question for your giveaway because you want to do a giveaway, right?
Yeah, I thought this is also me saying thank you for having me on your podcast. You'll have to explain the rules later, which my assistant sent you, right? Yeah, I guess you can. What would be a good question? This would people would actually have to listen to the which porn mag did I work for?
Gotcha.
Which would be Hustler.
Gotcha. Perfect.
Actually, I worked on all of them, but Hustler is the one everyone remembers.
Yeah, I was trying to think of something they couldn't look up, which I think it would be hard for them to look up. So I think that works. Maybe.
Yeah.
No, I don't have. I just wanted to say thanks, and if you can tell everybody where to find you.
Yeah, it's. I think I'm easy to search, so it's Bryan Ewing, EWING.com, and then same thing with Facebook and Instagram. If you don't find me, you'll find another Bryan Ewing, and they might be more interesting. So maybe just follow them. Other than that, I have a newsletter that you can sign up for if you want. Can I be a social? Can I be like a publicity whore and tell you everything that I'm up to right now?
Yeah.
All right. I did a print with Pantera, so I'm going to be releasing that soon. It's licensed through them. It's for their anniversary of Vulgar Display of Power. Yeah. Then I did a print with Blondie. I'm going to be releasing that. Then Death Cab, I'm going to be finishing that up. Then I'll be doing that Pusicfer poster for October. Then I'll be at New York Comic Con in October, and then Designer Con in Anaheim in November. In fall of 23, I might be having a solo show in Spain, which would be fucking crazy.
That is
so I'm excited about that. I just want to go there to eat the food because I know the food's going to be really good. I got to brush up on my Spanish. Series 2 of the Ghost Boner, which is a toy that I created because it was so stupid I had to do it. So we're going to come out with Series 2. I collaborated with UVD Toys. So we'll be releasing that hopefully at the end of the year, if not beginning of the year.
Will the boner be bigger this time?
No. It'll just have different color. It'll just have different colorway. I try to keep it subtle. So when people see it, they have to do a double take. Yeah, it's a good conversation starter, I guess. So Series 2 will have different colorways. Series 1 did really well. We're doing Series 2 now. And then I just released a new book called The Things That Could Not Be, which is a book of sketches that were either approved and the projects were canceled because of the pandemic, or because I just got really excited about the project and I turned in 12 ideas for one poster. So the book publishes a few of those sketches. So there's like Pusicfer, of course, Metallica, Anthrax. Now I forget. There's a bunch of My Chemical Romance.
That's awesome. That's a great idea.
It doesn't look like I do a lot of work, but you only see what an artist releases. You don't see any of the work they do behind the scenes. So this is a great way to show that off. And also, I needed merchandise for San Diego Comic-Con, and screen printing takes about 2 months to get anything printed nowadays. So I thought this would be a good idea. So yeah, I suck at promoting myself, so hopefully this helps promote what I do.
Yeah. Cool. I always ask everybody that comes on my show this: do you collect anything yourself?
Yeah. Ironically, I don't really collect rock posters. I just don't have the space. And it's hard to collect something you make because you already have, like, behind me, you can't even see half the shit is just 20 years of posters that I've done. And I'll try to collect some prints that I was really into. I get really pissed off when artists make a print that is like an odd size. And it's like, you asshole.
Yes.
I got to spend $500 on a $50 print to get it fucking framed. So I collect a lot of original art. To me, that's a little more special, Lately, I've just been talking about collecting original art on my social media as a way to kind of let people know, like, oh, this is a great way to support artists, is buying the originals from them. And it's also, you get to be that asshole who's the only person who owns that, and, you get to compete with other collectors in that way. So I collect original art from artists that I really like. And I'm very fortunate to be able to do that. I collect, I'm worried that, like, I'll end up on Hoarders because I collect a lot of books, like art books and stuff like that. Those huge IKEA square bookcases?
Yeah.
Whether it's like yes, it is 8 squares. I have like 6 of those full of books. It's crazy.
What is like your holy grail of original art or book, or is there one thing that was hard to get that you maybe took a lot of effort?
I don't know. They all take effort. Like, I have a story for each one. It's not like, oh, I didn't have to do anything and I got this book. No, I really had to find like some of my influences, like Ashley Wood. Like, I own an original painting of his, or this comic artist named Dave Johnson. If you ever read 100 Bullets, published by DC, he was the cover artist for that. He and I are friends, and for my birthday, he gave me an original painting of one of the covers. Coop, I own one of Coop's originals. Actually, I own a few. We did some trade. Frank Kozik, we did a trade, he's like the grumpiest guy in art. It's hilarious. He's like an amazing artist. He's just, if anybody thinks I'm unapproachable, I probably learned it from him. But he's a sweet guy. What else? I don't know. trying to think. I have so many books, it's hard to narrow it down.
No worries.
It's like children,
Yeah.
I collect, what else? I collect stormtroopers from Star Wars. Like, I don't care about any other character, but I love the original, A New Hope stormtrooper design. So you can't see it, but in the background on one of my shelves, it's just covered with stormtrooper toys. And it's just that design. I don't like any of the other versions, like
You don't like the foil variant versions?
Oh, if it's as long as it's the original fucking 70s stormtrooper design. I love that helmet. But when they did like the clone troopers and all that shit, I couldn't stand it. But yeah, I collect a lot of that stuff too. And gosh, this is such a hard question to answer.
No worries.
I can say I collect a lot of dust, because I'm always in my studio, just covered, just bent over my drawing table trying to get shit done. I collect a lot of dust, I guess.
Thank you for coming on. This was an amazing conversation. Great guy. I'm so glad I got to spend, it's almost been 2 hours. I usually only spend an hour with somebody. It's been 2 hours almost. And I could keep going, but I don't want to. You got a Death Cab for Cutie poster coming.
Yeah.
Again, look for his mirror Pusicfer print. If it already came out, it's probably gone by the time you listen to this.
I don't know. I was shocked that this release sold so well, because the 2015 took me years to sell that print. So I'm glad the band's audience is collecting more posters now.
It's a whole thing. I mean, I had to practice on your website to be like, okay, this is how you can log in and get your stuff in, and like I don't have bots or anything, and that's what I'm competing against, So.
Really? Because I listened to the Camille Rose Garcia interview you did. You guys discussed that too, and it's fascinating. I don't know if people use bots.
Me neither, really, but
there are some flippers who I know they're flipping it, and I'm not a fan, but they're kind of a necessary evil. They inflate the value. It's overvalued. I don't go to eBay.
Sure.
Because it'll just like send me into a rage. But if I'm selling a print for $50, I got my $50. I have no control over what happens after that. So what I try to do is just educate people and just say, hey, sign up for my newsletter and I will randomly send it out, instead of, I made the mistake of telling everybody I'm going to, it's going to get released tomorrow. It's going to get released in an hour. And so I just had all these people crashing my website, instead of just signing up for the newsletter. So for what I try to do is give back to the people that are supporting me, is giving them access to this stuff before I post it to social media. And if it is a successful drop, I don't even need to post it to social media because it's gone. So yeah, like this is my way of saying thank you, is, sign up for the newsletter and you have a better chance than just hitting refresh on my website every day, I guess.
Fair enough.
So yeah.
So thank you again.
And it sucks.
It sucks. Yeah. No.
Sorry.
No, it does.
No, it sucks because you want to, help everybody out. Yeah. And some collectors are really genuinely nice. And then there are some who befriend you, get the hookup, and you think you have a friend, but you realize like, nah, this person's kind of using me. So
that's terrible.
The newsletter is the best way to go. It's first world problems, man.
No, totally. So again, thank you, Bryan Ewing. Again, go to all of his social media, sign up for his newsletter, people. That's what we're trying to say here.
Yeah.
Sign up for the newsletter and keep an eye out for his book and buy things from him at his store. He's a great guy. Thank you for listening.
If you can't, just repost it, just
there you go.
Say, hey, I dig this artist or that artist,
Yeah.
It's a free way of, showing how much good taste you have.
Yeah, share it. Again, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Spiral Out Podcast is produced by me, your host, Chris West, edited by me, researched by me. Everything is pretty much just done by me. Go to our website, spiraloutpod.podbean.com. Follow us on Instagram at spiral_out_pod. Facebook, Spiral Out Podcast. And again, if you want to see some of the images associated with this episode, click the link in the show notes and it'll take you there. Again, thank you for listening. Spiral Out. Pod dismissed. Wait, that's another show.